60% of the funding currently in India goes towards education programs, about 20-25% goes to health. Show those linkages, because again, most of the CSR people that I've spoken to, when you say sport, they actually turn away unless it's a sporting competition, excellence for sports or something of that nature. They don't actually see the linkage between sport and development, health, and education. So I think it's important to go into those budget or sort of silos versus just S4D as a whole.
In fact, I would again like to say the same thing like I said to Eric. We at the IIC, since we're working at the policy level, and you are a capacity building organization, and if we want to embed the sports agenda or sports for development agenda into spending, it has to get embedded in policy. Yeah. So do connect with us also on this and guide us as to how we can take it across. All right, Biren, your set of questions?
You want to take that?
There's a question for three of us.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Jojo from Basketball Fever. Inspiring to hear what your respective organizations are doing and the increasing commitment to CSR. But could you elaborate more on the why? What is your business case? And don't just say you care about the community, in brackets, although you do. I need an answer from each panelist, but particularly Preeti, Eric, and Biren.
So maybe just one of you give that answer, because we're really running short of time.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting because the bottom part of the question gives some examples on what this potential payback could be. Return on investment, corporate image, tax break, benefits to staff, legislation. So I'll just give you from my point of view. Financially, there's no return on investment. If there is a tax break, I'm not aware of it. There very well may be. Corporate image, as I mentioned, we don't publicize these things for the reason that I mentioned. For me, it's two things in particular. First of all, I feel as a company, we have an obligation, as an individual, we have an obligation to participate in these activities, number one. And we're very focused on what we do, as I mentioned. We have these rules that be around sports, about kids, it's sustainable. And then the final one that I mentioned is really the one that's listed on this question is employee engagement. I use it as a real tool to get employees engaged in something other than their day-to-day activities. And they really enjoy it, to be honest. So if there is a return on investment, it's that engagement we get with the employees. That's from an Adidas perspective, how I view it.
Yeah.
Very quickly, from Reliance, we have created a separate organization, a company called Reliance Foundation. That's where the NBA program goes here, football grassroots goes there, where it's pure CSR. And the model which I said is a commercial model of investment, but CSR through our partners who are doing grassroots development. So it's both.
Okay, so let's have Anita take her part of the questions now. Quickly in a minute's time, Anita, if you can.
Sure. So the first question is, what kind of M&E, monitoring and evaluation system, are you using at TOMS to keep track of what impact the shoes are actually having on children's lives? Fantastic question. We actually recently hired an impact director specifically to look after this and figure out what are not just the qualitative feel-good stories of I'm so happy I have my first new pair of shoes, but also quantitatively. So when you have partners like PIH, Partners in Health, who are able to attract 42,000 kids to a medical camp where before they could only bring a few hundreds, what does that mean? We have very honored to work with Pratik, Minnie, and the whole Magic Bus team to start looking at an impact study of how do athletic shoes actually make a difference in the lives of children in India. So that's certainly a big area of focus for us. The next question was, some countries don't have shoes in their culture and they prefer sandals or chappals. So how do you think about this and how do you help them? So we certainly take into account what the local traditions are and what the local needs are, but we also want to make sure that children's health is first. So if chappals and sandals mean that the children will get injured more while playing football, it's not something that we would advocate for. But whatever the NGO eventually says, if it helps them to have the shoes, that's only the time that we'd partner with them. The last question is, how can I become part of TOMS, become a giving partner? Our applications for this year are closed, but I'm more than happy to meet with you afterwards. It'd be great to work with you. Thanks.
So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Anybody else left? Biren, you have? Do it in a minute if you can, please.
Yeah, the question was, what are the challenges faced in rural communities, especially when you are training young women? And does the Tata Steel name help? There are challenges, but you'll be surprised, especially in tribal areas, it's the women who are more forthcoming. And we don't find much issues when it comes to working with girls and women, especially for sports. So whether it's football or athletics or archery or even hockey, the women are more interested and they come forward. And clearly, the Tata Steel name, sure, it helps. I also wanted to add something to the previous question, which was put up by Jojo. Why do you do this work? I think to a certain extent, Deval had already answered this question. There are lots of linkages that we find through sports. And Mr. Upadhyay also at the outset had talked about it. It's a great tool of engagement, and through sports you can reach out and get your other agendas done, whether it is education, whether it is adolescent, reproductive and sexual health, whether it is HIV, AIDS. A lot of these things can be cross-pollinated through sports, and sports becomes a great entry tool. And last, I'm reminded of a very old saying that if you want to invest for 1 year, invest in paddy, in rice. And if you want to invest for 10 years, plant a mango tree and you'll get the fruits. And if you want to invest for 100 years, invest in people and in their capacities. And I think sports is a great tool to invest in people and in their capacities and in their leadership and in their self-esteem. And so I think that probably answers your question.
I guess that takes care of all the questions. So, I think, Deval, you have anything pending with you? No, done. I'll just take a couple of minutes to quickly wind this up. And as I'm winding it up, let's first have a big round of applause to the panelists, because we kind of we tried our best to put up as many questions as we could. Now, in a minute's time, I'll just explain to you what the IIC is also trying to do, because we are an apex national organization. You have to go, Parul, I believe. Huh? Okay, fine. Thanks. He has to go rush. All right. So, the IICA is a think tank of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And with the new legislation in place, and as I just mentioned to you the kind of numbers, I will quickly tell you as to what we are doing in terms of becoming the enablers to help you do better CSR. A new law should not scare you, all right? And because the opportunity is huge. And I myself come from the development sector. I was working for the Mahindras before I came on board here. I was with the Tech Mahindra Foundation. I worked very closely with both Anand and Keshav Mahindra, Vineet Nair, who heads the Tech Mahindra, which bought over Satyam. So we are setting up 4 verticals within the institute. Now, the first vertical is called the NGO Hub. Because if you want to do CSR, you need to do 3 things. You need to have good NGOs, number 1. Assuming you have the monies. So once you qualify, you need to have good implementing agencies. Number 2, you need to have trained people in your team who know what CSR is all about. And third is you need to have projects. A project should be able to map the ground need and suck up the money to implement it on the ground. And there needs to be adequate utilization of those funds, because you may make a project and never be able to spend the money. It goes waste. It gets blocked. So to a donor, it's a huge scare if you have money blocked. So we are setting up a vertical called the NGO Hub, where we hope to empanel about 1 lakh of NGOs in the next 3 years. There are more than 3 million NGOs in the country. So it will be sectoral, geography-wise empanelment of NGOs. There's a huge thing which is coming up. Keep a note on our website. The second vertical is a data portal. Mandatory reporting will start coming in, and policies also have to be uploaded on websites. So we will be mapping all of that in terms of a data aggregation and doing data analytics. For example, a member of parliament a couple of years hence may ask, I'm from Muzaffarabad, what was the baseline of learning outcomes in primary education in my district before this amount of money in CSR came? What was the change it brought about in terms of learning outcomes, which is a mandate of the Right to Education Act. Today in the RTE, a huge implication is, a huge need is, outcomes are not coming. Children are getting enrolled, but outcomes are not coming. So this data will be a data portal. Just a couple of minutes. I'll just wind up, Prateek. The third is a training vertical. It's called learning and development. Now he's going to pull this thing on me, I know. So maybe I need to get a little bit of that access. So third is the learning and development vertical, where we are rolling out trainings across director level, CSR heads, and the program functionaries, along with NGO leadership. And the fourth is a collaborative, which I wanted to end with, because as more and more corporates come on board, and we have organizations like a Magic Bus, which wants to scale up its programs, we need projects where multiple donors can come in and multiple implementers can get engaged, and we at the IIC would like to be the enablers. So I just wanted to end up with that, just to let everybody know. So from the audience as well as from the panelists, you're all most welcome to connect with the IICA. And I guess let's have a huge round of applause to all of you, for your own self.
Wow, what a session was that. thanks everybody, all my panelists, Eric, Pritiji, Deval, Biren, Anita, and Dr. Upadhyay and Parul, who have already left. And definitely a big round of thanks to and applause to all of you for sharing your experiences, your thoughts, and what you have been accurate for over the years. And also special thanks to Nikhil, who made this whole process lively, whole session very lively, despite people having good lunch. Still very active and on toes. Thanks a lot.